All right. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. If we have any in our group, I was told that there was one, and I was like, "Oops, sorry. I just keep making everybody a goddess." Thank you for joining me in Sacred Soulful Sundays. This is something that I thoroughly enjoy and is becoming a very rich and enhanced part of my life. Hope it is for you too. And today I'm going to be covering one of my favorite lessons to teach because I believe that it's such a foundational principle for guiding us through life. In fact, it is called the emotional guidance system. Okay, the emotional guidance scale. When we decided as souls to come into this body and participate in this physical form, in the expansion of our beings that in fact also expands the consciousness of the world. Again, it's all connected, and the consciousness overall. We are in connection with God, okay? We are always in connection with our source, ever present, all the time, no discussion. That is just a given, okay? The thing is that coming into this physical body, we have this incredible sense of amnesia. We forget who we really are all the time. In fact, that's kind of the whole point of this little illusionary game that we call life. You know, we want to come from a very clean slate so that we can experience ourselves in a totally new way by not having any preconceived notions of what that's going to be, right? It's kind of like, okay, we're going to take a test in school, but they gave us the answers. What's the point of that? Really, there's no point. But guess what? When we decided to come to be in this experience, we have a very important tool within us that was given to us as a gift, okay? And it's a navigation system. So imagine that you've been given this GPS because you're landing on this planet to have a whole new experience. But imagine if you don't have a roadmap to get from point A to Z, right? You decided what you were going to do and how you were going to create it, and you have the free will to experience it, but you need a little bit of guidance, right? And that guidance system is called our emotions. If you break down the word emotions, it's very simple to understand this idea because emotions are energy in motion. Okay? Remember that. Energy in motion. And as you all know by now, I believe, we are all vibrating. In fact, everything on this planet vibrates, correct? We all have a vibrational frequency. And everything around us has a vibrational frequency. It's the law of physics, the law of physicality. We know that atoms are moving within particles, even though it doesn't seem that way. Even though something seems solid, it really is not solid, correct? This is something we did learn in school, and they told us, hey, we are all vibrational creatures as well as everything around us is vibrating. So I want you to think about these emotions that we have, or energy in motion, as a vibrational frequency. Okay? There is no good and bad per se, but just like everything on this planet that I've explained many times is in a duality system, we are in polarity, correct? We have a positive and a negative charge in order for things to work, right? Everything has a positive and negative. Everything has a yin and a yang. So does our emotional guidance system, right? And I've explained in the past and mentioned a few times, but I'm going to repeat it again because it's so important. There really are only two emotions. Now you're going to say, what? What do you mean there's two emotions? That's not true, V. There's more than two emotions. But no, there are really only two emotions. Okay.
B, excuse me. Did everybody see that B got frozen, or did she just freeze for me?
No.
Because you froze for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope
just for you.
Okay.
I was able to see
you.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's seeing her.
All right. So, so going back to the fact that there's only two emotions, what are those two emotions? Can anybody tell me what those two emotions are?
love and fear.
Yeah,
Thank
fear and
you, Lord is awesome. Exactly. Everything breaks down to two emotions, love and fear, right? So we can say that love, of course, is on the positive spectrum, right? And fear is on the negative spectrum, right? So when you were in school, you know that you started with a line, a horizontal, let's consider it a horizontal line, right? And right in the middle is neutral. And to one side is positive, right? Positive numbers. And then to the other side is negative numbers, correct? So if we turn that line vertically and we consider the positive numbers at the top and the negative numbers at the bottom and our horizontal line in the middle, right? That is an emotional scale, right? So the highest emotions that we can feel and experience, which in fact are high frequency and vibrational numbers like 700. Let's say consider our highest love emotion, which is joy, right? Pure ecstasy. That vibrates on a very high frequency. Okay? So you're separated from fear and you're in pure love, right? Now consider from that horizontal line down everything that would cause a negative feeling that is based in fear. The lowest vibrational frequency that you can experience, I would call shame, depression, sadness. These emotions run on a low frequency, okay? So that guidance system that is inside of you is in a constant state of telling you where you are in relation to your higher self and source. Okay? The best way to describe this is that you are a being with 2 points of perspective that are continually relating to each other. So, for example, your highest self, the one that is connected to God, is fearless. Does that make sense? There is no such thing as other than feeling love and joy when you are in that state. When you are not feeling in that state and experiencing other emotions, you are just distant or separated from yourself. So imagine that as human beings, we are 2 points of perspective. Our higher self, which is always connected, and our ego, which is grounded to the earth. Okay? The personality that we are. You know, our personality and our thoughts within that ego space are generating emotions constantly because thoughts are the first spark of vibration. So one of the things that we forget to be conscious of is that our thoughts create things. So I've mentioned this as well. Again, I live in a world of creation. You know, part of my work, my job, my career is creating. I'm in a constant state of creation. That's what I do. That's my favorite place to be. But believe it or not, we are all masterful creators. In fact, name one thing that doesn't exist in physical form that was not a thought first. Everything that is in the world around us, except, of course, for the things that are created by nature, were a thought first. So your thoughts create things, but your thoughts also generate emotions. So if you're having a thought that is negative about yourself, that causes in turn a frequency and vibration of fear or bad feelings or negativity, right? If you are having that, you are in discord with your higher self, which is always in a state of love. Does that make sense to all of you? So it causes a resistance, which we feel as an emotion. So any negative emotion is in discord with our higher self. And therefore, it causes us to feel out of sorts. If we stay in that vibrational frequency and we broadcast it out into the world, because remember, we're like little radios, okay? That's what we are. We're like little radios or TVs. We are broadcasting and receiving at all times, 100% of the time. And we're in a constant state of creation based on those desires, thoughts, and emotions. So as we project these emotions out into the world through the law of attraction, we also resonate and attract what comes into us. So sometimes if we feel frustrated that we are not manifesting, for example, and Lourdes is always telling me this, look at what I have manifested. You are always manifesting based on your vibrational frequency. Okay? Always. It is inevitable. So to understand this, you have to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And understand that that state in which you are feeling is generating the vibrational frequency that's going out into the world. And by law of attraction, attracting like things unto itself to you. Do we get that? Because I cannot state how important having an awareness of our emotions is. And I printed up this that I'm going to share later. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is like a little chart. This is a little chart of emotions. And at the top, you see all of our high level emotions, such as love, joy, passion, freedom. So these high vibrational frequencies, and I'm going to read them to you because I know it's hard to read the chart, but I will share this as always later. Love, joy, passion, freedom, highest excitement. That is our highest vibration. If you are creating from that emotion, you cannot help but manifest amazing things. Okay? Our lowest are despair, grief, disempowerment, depression, hopelessness. Like I said, shame. These are very, very low emotions. And some people get stuck in them. Some people get stuck in their lower emotions. And then they wonder why the world around them shows up in that same pattern of frequency, in hopelessness, in bad things happening to them. You know, they haven't made the connection between their state of emotional being and the things that show up around them. Okay? So for me, for example, I cannot say, and I've been very blessed in my life, that I don't, even oh, who put that up? This
Me.
is great. Oh, thank you, Deb. So one of the things that I used to experience a lot when I was not really in the place that I am today through my practice, some of my favorite go-to emotions were anxiety, impatience, frustration. I can't say that I was a worrywart, right? But I can tell you that I kind of I could easily get frustrated. I could easily become impatient. And that emotion, I believe, prevented me from reaching some incredible milestones in my life. Because I know today that there is no such thing as someone else creating your life for you. Everything that shows up, I created it. So I can tell you that for me, once I was able to go past those emotions, I was able to manifest much, much better things into my life. So making this connection between what you're feeling and what's showing up in your life is extremely important. Now, one of the things that I want you to understand is that it's very difficult. Think of this as a ladder, okay? So you're climbing a ladder, right? You're climbing a ladder, you're going up a staircase. It is incredibly difficult to take 5 steps in one leap on a ladder. Am I right? To go from, let's say, a lower frequency of, let's say, anger. Like when you get angry, let me put it this way. When you get angry, it's kind of hard, right? To go from anger to excitement. It's almost like, you're fighting yourself, right? You're like, why do I feel this way? And you almost have to like let it pass so that maybe you can go from anger to, let's say, impatience or frustration, right? That's a higher frequency. So reaching for the higher state of vibrational emotion is a good thing to practice. And that's why it's so important to understand where these emotions lie in relation to the scale, right? Because it's very difficult to take a leap from worry and impatience to joy, right? To go all the way up to joy. It's almost like taking 10 steps in one. So what you want to try and do is reach for the next higher emotion. And how do you do that? You do that by focusing your attention to something that brings you a little bit of a better feeling, right? Just a little bit of a better feeling. Not trying to go all the way up, but going a little bit higher. So I had a dear friend, or have a dear friend, that suffered from depression almost her entire life. I mean, it was almost a chronic problem, always in that state. But when I would see her become angry, I would actually be happy. I would be thrilled to see her angry, because anger, believe it or not, is higher in the vibrational scale than depression. Just as anger is a higher vibrational scale than shame. Okay? So when she would be angry, I would actually be happy, because I knew that she was not in a state of such deep depression that she was at risk of giving up completely. Because giving up completely is what people that commit suicide do. When people commit suicide is when they've said, that's it, I'm done. I'm done with this life. There's just no use. I never feel good. I never have a good positive emotion, and I'm giving up, right? So what I ask you to do today is to think about your primary state of emotion. Where are you on this scale most of the time? Do you spend 50% of your time on the negative spectrum or on the positive spectrum? On a daily basis, if you ask yourself, what am I feeling? Okay. Are you able to analyze it from an objective perspective, separating yourself from that emotion? Like if you're watching a movie, you know, how many times do you not watch a movie that is a tearjerker and you're just like, you know, you're crying, but that emotion is, you're experiencing it, but it's really not from you. You're seeing it on a screen. So imagine yourself participating in your own movie. Imagine yourself doing that, watching yourself and saying, oh, wow, I'm really in a bitchy mood today. What is wrong with me? Why am I so out of sorts? Why am I so out of alignment with who I really am? And if you can find good, positive ways to bring your vibrational frequency up to the next highest state of emotion, then you have learned a tool that can be incredibly effective for your navigational system through life. Okay? This is so important. Now, for me, like I said in another lesson, joy, which is what you're trying to reach for, that highest state, is very different from happiness. I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again, because joy is the state of being that you are trying to maintain. It's a frequency you're trying to maintain, even if the shit is hitting the fan, okay? Even if stuff is going wrong, understanding and being in gratitude of what's happening, because you know it's in your own good, and it's bringing how can I say it? It's clarifying your direction. It's a discernment. So when something is not feeling right, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, the reason that's occurring is because your desires are not in line with who you really are. Okay? So you wonder why sometimes things just happen naturally and beautifully, and it's most likely because you elevated your vibration to the point that allowed that desire to come in. And that's called manifestation. Okay? We manifest not from our heads, but from our hearts. Okay? And in fact, when our hearts are aligned with our heads, which is thought and emotion, right? Thought and emotion. When those two things are vibrating in the same frequency, when they are like, you know, have you ever seen an electrocardiogram? Choo, 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 right? When they are in the same wave, synchronized, that's when we manifest our desires. And most of the time, it's going downstream. So think of a river, right? Think of a river. If you are experiencing negative emotions, you've taken your canoe, you've turned it, and you're going upstream, paddling really hard, really, really hard, right? And that stream is just pushing you the other direction, but you're paddling and you're paddling. Now, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to turn your canoe around and go downstream and go with the flow, right? Florinda and I talk about this all the time. Oh, are we flowing? I'm not in flow. And ironically, her name is Flo. Florinda. So we talk about flow all the time. And in the exercise world or in the athletic world, they call that being in the zone, right? How many times have you felt yourself being in that zone, that you're like riding that wave? You're flowing downstream. You're not catching any resistance whatsoever. That is the state we are meant to be in. That is when we are aligned with our higher self. That's when the ego has gotten out of the way. And the ego is the one that tells you, what do you think you're doing? You don't have enough knowledge for that. You're not prepared enough for this. You're so stupid. How could you be doing this? That's the ego. The heart is saying, what did I tell you? Yes. The universe always says yes. It says yes to everything you desire. Yes. But your thoughts and your ego play tricks on you. And the ego can be, not always, but full of fear. And it's those fear-based thoughts that hold you back. It's that fear is a lower vibration. Remember that. It's super simple if you think about it. And I don't understand why this kind of information isn't standard teaching for our children. If we were taught this as children, can you only imagine? Like, you would just get it. It's almost like learning the basics of physics, right? The basics of frequency and vibration. Understanding how we feel in relation to what's happening around us is the perfect GPS system, right? So you must allow yourself to be the being that life has caused you to become if you are to feel joy. Joy, if you have not allowed yourself that which life has caused you to become. This emotional guidance system, and I tell you, when I learned this, I learned it through Abraham Hicks. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. The teachings of Abraham are incredible, incredible work. And it's a huge body of work that has been channeled through Esther Hicks. So there's several books that I highly recommend that you pick up. You know, Understanding Your Emotions, Ask and It Is Given, The Law of Attraction, and all of this is incredibly important stuff. So this foundational principle and understanding in your life will allow you to objectively observe yourself and allow you to shift your emotional process to a higher level as much as possible. And I have to say, it's nearly impossible to stay in a state of joy all the time. Okay, it's just not possible. That is called enlightenment, by the way. If we are able to reach enlightenment in this moment in time in physical form, we would be like the masters that have come before us, like Jesus or Buddha. Those beings were able to master their emotions and to understand them, and that is called enlightenment. So we're always working towards this. And one of the things that I want you to understand is that when you're having a negative emotion, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, you need to understand that those emotions are connected to fear and ego. And you have to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? What is causing this emotion in me? And it may be as simple as, I'm just afraid of failure. I'm afraid to look stupid. All of these negative thoughts that we can naturally go into caused by our ego. But our soul is always telling us, yes, you're fine, all is well. So it's that disconnect, it's that resistance between our higher self and the grounded physical self that we are, that is launching rockets of desire all the time that is causing that discord inside of us. So for me, grasping this, but on a level of true wisdom, is critical for navigating through your life. Because when something happens to you that causes you to feel any of these negative emotions, it's basically a misalignment with who you really are. It's always a dis-ease, right? And as I've mentioned before, if you experience these negative emotions on a consistent basis over and over and over again, it can cause the thought, the negative thought, to transfer into the body and become a dis-ease, which is called a disease. Okay? If people experience something consistently, and that happens a great deal with trauma, okay? Trauma in our lives causes us to have embed an emotion within the pain body of our psyche and our bodies, okay? And it can manifest in a disease, okay? Later on, it doesn't happen overnight, okay? But with consistency, it can happen. So I firmly believe that there's this deep-rooted connection to the way that we feel on a consistent basis and diseases that we may have in our body. Some are minimal, like maybe we get a cold, you know. I mean, I used to be so able to connect when I would get sick to an emotion, a negative emotion that I experienced. I would make that connection like, whoa, oh, of course I got sick. Look at that. You know, I got angry. They triggered me and I got angry and I expended all of that emotion and now I got sick. And that is happening all the time because we are master creators, guys. We are master creators. Everything that is around us, we created it. Now, we're all creating collectively. And in fact, what I want you to understand is that is why mass meditation is so incredible, because the vibrational frequency of love elevates, and collectively it elevates because of the quantum field, the collective unconscious. Okay? So what we're doing today together is exactly that. The higher we vibrate, the higher we send out those frequencies into the planet. And together we raise the collective consciousness. We raise the vibration of the planet. So that's why prayer and meditation and all of that is so fantastic, because it's not just for us, it's for everyone, because it's all connected. So this lesson is foundational for ourselves and foundational for the world. You don't know how many people I have taught this lesson to, and they have in turn been able to finally understand and not feel like they are a ship without a navigational system. Okay? You can't ride this beautiful ocean of life without a navigational map. And you've been given one, but nobody told you. Nobody made you aware that you had this beautiful GPS inside of you. It's your compass. It's your North Star. It's what is guiding you at every moment of the day, whether you get it or not. And the more stable you are in your emotions, by the way, and that's why meditation is so good, because meditation allows you to stabilize your emotions on the positive spectrum and to stay in those higher levels of emotion more often than not. Okay? The more you practice that, and breathing is very important too. I mean, sometimes if you can't, or you haven't had the opportunity to meditate or pray or whatever, and you haven't been able to set a time aside to do that, at the very least, breathe in and breathe out and allow yourself to calm your body and calm your mind. Believe it or not, that just doing that practice is critical because it sends a message to the body and to the mind and to the soul that everything is well. Okay? Extremely important. How many of you have had any exposure to the Abraham Hicks information? Tatiana? Christina? Good. Leslie, no? Yes. Florinda, yes. So the emotions that you feel always indicate the vibrational difference between your point of desire and your current thought. Okay? If you have something to write with, write that down. The emotion that you feel always indicates the vibrational difference between your point of desire and your current thought. So, one of my favorite emotions, you know which one it is? Excitement. In fact, I like to say that a lot. When I'm working with my clients, one of the most wonderful tools that I have to know whether something that they have selected is aligned with them is excitement. When I see my clients get excited, about something, then I know in my heart that the selection is good, that it's great for them and it's great for me. So Leslie asked me to repeat this again, so I'm going to do it one more time. The emotion that you feel always indicates the vibrational difference between your point of desire and your current thought. Okay? So it's between your desire and your belief and expectation. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Okay? So if you are feeling, let's say, if you're feeling worried about something, okay, it's because you are not in alignment with your desire of something. Okay? So let's say you want something really badly. You really want a new job or a new career, right? But it's just not happening. You're just not getting there. Whatever it is that your desires are up here in joy. Oh my God, if I have that job, it would be just so amazing. I would feel so good every day. Every day I'd get up in the morning and I'd run over there and I'd feel fantastic all day, right? But you're worried, right? Inside, you're feeling impatient. You're frustrated because you haven't been connected to that job. You don't really know exactly what job that is, right? So here's your desire up here, already has it. By the way, you asked and they gave it to you. The universe already gave you that desire. It's yours, right? It's yours. But your emotions haven't risen up to believe it yet. Does that make sense? Right? So you're down here feeling worried and scared and fearful and impatient and frustrated. Okay? So until you get yourself up to like saying, maybe I think I could do that, right? I think, yeah, this is a possibility, Yeah, I think I could feel that. Yeah, I don't know what it is yet, but I'm almost there. Maybe it's like around the corner. I know somebody's going to show up and I'm going to find it, right? Just getting to that point, you're already rising up to meet this desire that you've launched right here. Okay? Now, if you sit down with yourself and now you're thinking, you can almost visualize yourself. Let's say you create a little movie in your head and you see yourself in that job and you make yourself imagine, just use your imagination to create the scenario. Like make believe, make it up. It's you can see the space, you can see maybe the desk, maybe you can see the environment, maybe you can smell it, maybe you can smell that the coffee's brewing in the morning and you love getting there. And if you can start that, guess what happens? Your emotional vibrations rise up, rise up, rise up. Okay? And when you get up to a point where you believe that you already have it with your heart, guess what? All of a sudden it shows up. The synchronicities start happening. Someone calls you and says, oh my God, this person told me about this job and I think it's just perfect for you. What do you think? I mean, how many times have you not had that happen in your life? I'm sure that you've had that happen, that you're like, whoa, how did I meet that person? I was standing in the grocery line and they just talked to me about this thing that I was thinking about and that I needed. And look, it happened. And you know why? Because you were flowing downstream. You weren't worrying yourself, rowing upstream, trying to figure out how to get it done. That was actually one of my biggest challenges, was surrendering my control. Okay? That was one of my biggest challenges because I can tell you I was a self-proclaimed control freak. Okay? I want to figure it out. Maybe I should write it down. Let me do the to-do list. Let me read it again. Let me figure step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And guess what? That is not how to get into flow. All you have to do is launch your desire, but then release it. Now, that's the hardest thing to do. I mean, I'm telling you, it makes it sound so easy, but it's very hard. So imagine yourself that you took a balloon and you blew it up. Expanded. This is, you know that this balloon is your desire. Made a little knot and you're holding onto the string, right? If you don't let it go, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays there, blown up, but not released. In order for it to fly and find its way, you have to let go of the string. A kite doesn't fly if you don't let that string go, right? So when you launch this desire, you have to find a way to surrender it, because as you're trying to figure out how that's going to arrive in your life, you're not letting the universe, you're not believing that you already have it. Do you get that? You're not believing that you already have it. You're holding it back. And if you're feeling emotions that are not in love, it is very hard for that desire to manifest. So that's why I love the emotion of excitement. When I feel excited about something, that's when I know it's all going to be perfect. because that energy of excitement in itself is the most amazing manifestation tool. And when I'm in the creative process of designing a home, for example, when I'm almost always in enthusiasm and excitement, almost like I don't even know when I'm not. You know when I'm not? I'll tell you when I'm not. And I know that this is something that happens when I'll have a client that just is so worried about the decision. Like worried, and I can't get them out of that worry. If I can't get them excited, I know that that particular thing is going to be an issue. Okay? And so many times I have had a client that all of a sudden there's this one thing that is extremely important to them. Like they're putting so much money into it. And this happens a lot. This happens a lot. When you're putting a lot of money into something, it becomes incredibly important. Right? We have issues, okay? We have major issues with how much money is spent on something and how important it is, right? So they will overthink this particular item because they put so much money, or they're going to put so much money into it, right? But I try so hard to let them not worry about it. I try to make them instead shift their emotions from worry to excitement. Because if they stay in worry, do you know that that energy channels so deeply that that thing will come wrong, it'll come broken, it won't show up. I don't know how to tell you. This thing will be like the death of me, because I know that the energy behind that item is not even mine. I can't counteract the worry and fear out of that thing. I'm telling you, it happens every time. It could be with an accessory, a piece of furniture, a drape, a wallpaper, whatever. But that thing, I guarantee you, will have issues. And that's what we do. We do that with our emotions. We stay stuck in fear and we don't allow ourselves to experience the joy. If that person would transfer that worry of that item and say, oh my God, when that comes into my house, it's going to make me so happy. We're all going to be so blessed that we had the money to spend on it, I'm in such gratitude that I'm capable of actually buying this thing. I guarantee you that everything's going to go smoothly. It's going to be perfect. Okay? And that's exactly what we do in our lives all the time. We are launching rockets of desire every moment of the day. Every moment. And we are using our emotions to guide us as to whether that is right or wrong for us. We just don't connect those dots. So sometimes we will get something that occurs in our lives that provides us with just the right amount of contrast for us to be able to say, you know what? I thought I wanted this, but I really don't want this. It's kind of like having a really great boyfriend or not. Okay? Like you'll date this guy. And I don't know if we have any men on this call, but you'll date this person and you'll say, you know, I like that he's funny. I like that he's funny, but you know, he's a bit lazy and I don't know if this is going to work, you know? So now all of a sudden you know that you want this, but you want someone that is funny and hardworking, right? So you start discerning by your emotions that you want something different than what you just had. So I would say that the first part of our lives, we're in a constant state of discerning through contrast. We're experiencing stuff every day and we're saying, oh, I like this. Oh, no, I don't like this. Oh, I like this. No, I don't like this. Oh, I like this. No, I don't like this. Right? And that is attached to our emotions. After a while, you get pretty good at it. After a while, you actually can look at something. You know what I do if I'm stuck in a negative emotion, right? If I'm having a moment with someone that, triggers me and makes me feel, let's say, angry or upset or frustrated, I will look at a tree. I'll look at a tree and I'll say, look at you, how beautiful you are, tree. You're so perfect. You're not worried about, anything, are you? No, not at all. Right? And all of a sudden, my mind will allow my emotions to feel better. A little better. Just a little better. Just enough to get me out of that mode that has brought me down. That's my special tool. I will look at something that will raise my vibration. And nothing raises my vibration faster than nature. That's my favorite go-to. I mean, if I just go outside, I feel better. Okay? Or some people might experience that through music. I think music is one of our most amazing tools. How many times have you felt like, terrible, and all of a sudden you'll hear a phenomenal song, something that brings you up, and all of a sudden you forgot what you were feeling bad about, right? That is a perfect example of raising your vibration. So we want to be able to use tools and understand how to get us up there. Because if you really want to create wonderful things in your life, you have to create them from a place of joy. Because if you create them from a place of worry or fear or frustration or anger, I guarantee you what's going to show up is not what you wanted. And you're going to find that contrast and you're going to say, okay, now look what I created. Okay? Because you created it, by the way. No matter what, you created it. So make sure that you're launching that desire from the highest vibrational emotion you can. And then you will see what shows up in your world. So, any questions from any of you? I'd love to hear. Any ahas from the past week? I shared with all of you my personal connection of purpose to core values on the WhatsApp group, because I felt that it would be the best way to give you an example of how those come together. But I'll talk to you guys about anything you like. So I'm here for you.
Do you think it's possible for someone who has clinical depression to implement these things?
I think everything is possible. Everything is possible. But first, there has to be an understanding of what's going on. By the time something has manifested as deeply as depression is, it's more challenging because that has become a habit and a momentum. So vibration also functions from a perspective of momentum, right? So it's really, really difficult to be in that low state of depression and come up to a state of joy. Like I said, it's like taking 20 steps up. So the first thing that has to happen is that they have to understand that depression is a reflection of giving up on the possibility that it could be different. It's very hard because once, but you know what I've also realized is that sometimes a state of depression is a crisis of the soul. It is a crisis of the soul. It is when the soul is screaming out so loudly that it is so disaligned with who they really are that manifests in the disease we call depression, because a disease is a dis-ease. Okay, it's a lack of understanding of what's truly going on with the soul's journey. How old?
29.
Oh my goodness, at 29. So at 29, he is giving up on his dreams. He believes that he can't manifest these dreams, and instead has created a vibrational frequency for himself that is very, very low. And I know that we go to drugs to artificially numb ourselves from pain. But unfortunately, the only way to get through these painful experiences is experiencing the pain. And the problem with antidepressants is that they're just a Band-Aid, because what is happening is that they're not allowing themselves to truly feel the emotions. So one of the things about emotions is that they must be felt. When emotions are repressed, they become disease. Okay? When emotions are repressed, they become disease. So, because they cause such a severe dis-ease and disalignment with our soul's journey. Okay, everything starts in the soul, guys. Nothing begins in our bodies. Nothing. It's the other way around. The soul, the thought, the body. Okay? And in order to clear out those emotions, you must feel them. And the problem with this plethora of drugs that we have that allow us to numb ourselves, not feeling those emotions and just putting them away in a bag and not looking at them, doesn't allow them to come through us and out of us so that we can transform them into a higher state of vibration. You get that?
Yeah. I agree with that so much.
Yes, they're telling us something is deeply disaligned with our soul. So to find a way back to his soul. And that's difficult when you're numb. It's difficult when you're numb. It's kind of like, having 3 drinks and driving home. It's a little difficult. You can't find your way home because you forgot. Because you're like, okay, I'm a little disoriented right now, right? So that's what's happening. So unfortunately, whatever drug is being given, whether it's us, sometimes we will do it to ourselves too. We overeat, or we'll have alcohol, we'll do anything just to like, okay, I just got to get I got to get feeling a little better, right? Let me feel a little better. And sometimes that's okay. It's okay to use, sometimes a Band-Aid is important because the alternative could be worse. Okay? Because when someone totally gives up, they're at risk of leaving this planet, whether it be on purpose or through an accident, because we call accidents things that are beyond our control, but I don't believe that. I believe that everything happens and is not a coincidence. We manifest accidents. Okay? I know that I did. I know that I've done it to myself, When I am not in a proper alignment with myself, something will show up to take me in another direction. My favorite story, and Florinda knows this, is when I broke my middle finger because I didn't want to go on a trip with a client that was incredibly abusive. And just to be able to get out of that trip, I manifested a broken middle finger. I broke it in 24. I had 24 stitches and I broke it in 4 parts just to be able to avoid going on this trip. So even though it seemed like an accident, I know that it wasn't an accident, you know? And I knew the moment that the concrete bench crushed my finger. It crushed my left middle finger and a little bit of my right middle finger, right? How symbolic is that? So, so my left middle finger was smushed like a grape, right? And the moment that it got smushed like a grape, I said, oh my God, B, look at what you've done to yourself. Just to be able to avoid going on this trip next week, right? So the soul will find a way to scream at you loudly, you know, if you don't listen. And many people experience things like a very severe disease like cancer, you know, or they'll go through some huge emotional crisis just so that the soul can be heard. Okay? And that depression is an emotional reflection of his soul. It's a soul crisis. Just like in my
hard.
opinion.
I want to like try to get him out of it and try to help, and it's really difficult.
Well, I don't know how open mind is to things that are outside of the realm of the typical medical Western medicine type of world. Yeah,
He's
Lorinda?
pretty open.
Yes.
Ariel, I've been listening, and it's heartbreaking to hear the experience, and in a way, I do relate to that. Not on a, I mean, personal level like you, but it is someone close to me, and it was very tough. But what has helped me, and I want to share this with you because maybe we always think of them as the quote unquote the problem. And the way that I've tried to address it myself was more like, okay, would it ever be possible? Since B has always said, I've been hearing B talking about these things for a few years now. And if it's true that we're creators, right? If it's true that we're creators, is it possible that I can create a better feeling for him? Is it possible that with my meditation, with me concentrating on visualizing him in a better state, could that even be possible? I did not know, and I tried. Of course, it's not only that. There's, and I did it actually without the person being even next to me. I'm talking thousands of miles away from me. But that for me has helped me thinking that I was trying to help. They need definitely the medical support. But I also think that instead of thinking of them as victims, I think of me as someone that can really help them and not putting it in their face as they are the problem. And I'm trying to help because it creates a resistance from them as well.
True.
So, no, I like that. That's really true. And I think about that a lot, and that's why I'm trying to become better and, try to really be in tune with my emotions so that I can help him. And maybe not by saying, oh, do this and try this, but by just my presence or my energy, or, it can help him in some factor.
Yes, for sure.
I also would like to add to this topic, and I can relate to this totally, but what I can do, I have actually great news for you because it's actually doable. So, but what I can tell you is that it's all doable. I'm with him now, 6.5 years. And from the person I met, to the person he is now, it's a completely different person. Like, I can share with you what helped in my case situation. So first of all, like leading by example, because I didn't see him as he see himself. I always looked at him and treated him as how I want to see him. So not like depressed. Instead of, I was noticing all the little things, all the little joyfulness, all the little, he looked at somewhere and I see spark in his eyes. And I brought this up. So I was bringing up, like kind of cultivating all these little sparks of minute happiness. And then every day I was reminding him about the past experience, what we experienced yesterday that bring him joy, to cultivate this kind of positive emotion. So I like to bring up the history of like, oh, look, remember like yesterday we were diving and you were so excited to put your stuff together. So basically on everyday basis. And then later, like leading by example. So basically show these things up, like, oh, look at this tree, or look at this bird, or look, listen to this sound. So through my experience, because you cannot influence another person's experience and you cannot make him want to do something until he really wants. And in order for him to want to do something, he needs to see that he can do. No, first you need to bring him to the stage where he wants to do something by himself. And this you can do by example and by setting the perfect condition for him to like be sad, raise his emotion, to see, to try to look what is there out there to look for, because we speak about that, but they don't know the tools, what to do. They don't feel their emotions as we do to guide themselves. So it takes time, because first 100 times it will be unsuccessful, but to keep on trying. The next thing would be when he already wants himself consciously to do something, it's like start like with 10 minutes meditation, because what it does, it's not direct medicine from it, but indirectly it changes your mind. And this even 10 minutes a day meditation give person a sense of accomplishment, sense of fulfillment, sense of I can do something. That's important, because when people go in that state of like deep depression, they are helpless. They don't know if they can do it. And even this 10 minutes, okay, if he started, he will finish 2 weeks of 10 minutes meditation every day. If it gives him a great hint that I can do something. So that's actually a big deal, but it's doable. I'm telling you, the love is the cure, but the only thing that don't treat him as he think of himself, because see him as you want to see him, and he will become that.
Christina, that is such a beautiful sentence.
Thanks, Christina. That's really helpful. That's really good advice.
Actually see him in his highest self. I loved, Christina, that you used the word cultivate. Okay. Cultivating is really what we are trying to do. We are cultivating ourselves. We are cultivating how to grasp that higher emotion. And what you mentioned, Christina, is called focus. We focus our attention, and people that are in a depressed state are focusing on everything negative instead of focusing on the next best thing, that little spark of joy, just anything that would bring up the vibrational frequency, just that little bit. That's why I mentioned that my friend that suffered from deep depression, every time I saw her go angry, I was happy, because I know that anger is a higher vibrational state than depression. So trying to reach for that little bit of higher state, and there may be some deep-rooted trauma emotions that are buried inside of him that he has not found a way to feel and release. Sometimes I call depression the greatest spiritual awakening, because it is your soul trying to scream at you to do something. And I know that when people get into that state, it's because they have become so completely disconnected from the soul that the soul is no longer able to speak to them and guide them through to a higher place. So also, one of the things that we do with our emotions is we stick them in a big luggage, okay, and we pack them away because we've been conditioned to, even from when when we're children, how many times do we not say, don't cry, don't do this, don't feel that, you know, why are you angry, you know, and we've been repressing our emotions from when we are children. Our parents don't even realize it when they do it, you know, and we need to let our children and our inner child feel these emotions when they come up. So what I've learned for myself is when I get angry, which I do, everybody does, I let myself feel it. I feel, and I say, and I acknowledge, I'm so angry right now. And I'll say it out loud. And when I say that, it's almost like I've given myself permission to feel it. And then all of a sudden, like a few seconds later, I'm not feeling so angry anymore because I allowed myself to feel it. I mean, try that. Next time you feel yourself getting any negative emotion inside of you and inside of your body, just acknowledge the emotion. Just say, I'm so anxious today. What is up with me? But it's okay because you felt it. You didn't try to repress it. You didn't try to make believe it wasn't there. You just felt it because it's okay to feel it. And what happens with people that dive into depression is that they are repressing all of these emotions that have been, that people have told them are wrong to feel. And there is no such thing as a wrong emotion. Every emotion in its state is neutral. It's only there to show us a better way. So not feeling the emotion is what causes the negativity, the disaccord. You have to feel them and acknowledge them and say, I'm okay, but I'm just frustrated right now, but I'll be better now. In a few minutes, it'll be going away and I'll be okay, right? And that alone, just saying, hi, emotion, I recognize you. You're creeping your little evil head, but I am going to not let you get to me. I'm going to feel you and I'm going to let you go. And if you're able to do that without control, you surrender to it, you accept it for what it is, that alone will allow you to go beyond it. And before you know it, you'll say, I'm not feeling that anymore. And there's some days that you just wake up and you don't even know why you're feeling that way, but you are. And it's okay. You just have to feel them neutrally. It's the same way as if your child is having a tantrum, right? Your child is having a tantrum. Are you just going to beat that kid up because he's having a tantrum? No, you try to console. You try to make them feel a little better, soothing them slightly, right? You soothe that child until it passes. That's exactly what you have to do to your emotions when they're negative. You soothe them and try to get to the next higher place on the scale, okay? And once you practice that, you're able to get through them. And I believe, Christina, what you said about just thinking about the person in their best state, remember that the quantum field holds all of our energies together. So we may not be able to see what we're doing with our eyes or with any of our senses, but believe me, the vibrational frequency of that is there. How many times have you not walked into a room and you feel that everybody's in a bad mood, right? How many times have nobody said a word, right? No one, but yet you feel it. You're like, why is this so heavy in here? And I think that the best way to tackle that is through the quantum field, is literally grounding yourself and literally imagining yourself, like closing your eyes imagining a ball of light in your mind, in your heart, and expanding it and expanding it and expanding it until it's so bright and it fills the room. And all of a sudden, you can imagine that energy gone. Another beautiful way to do that is to literally take incense, sage, anything, and clear the room. There's a reason why incense is used in every religion. There's a reason why bells, like those of you who are Catholics or have been to a Catholic mass, how many times when they raise the Eucharist, what do? They ring a bell. Ding, right? What do you think that does? It raises vibration. Okay, so sound is very healing. Smell is very healing. And thought is also very healing. So there's many, many tools in our arsenal to raise vibration. And you just have to believe that that is true. Okay? Because belief is just a thought you keep thinking. You change your beliefs, you change the world. All right. I'm so glad we had this chance to go over this foundational principle, because to me, without this, you're kind of you're lacking in a foundational idea that is, again, your emotional guidance system. Remember that. It's a scale. It literally is as important as understanding. I mean, we really don't know, for example, how our TVs work. Do we know how our TVs work? No. We know that a signal is sent out and all of a sudden it becomes an image on the screen. I have no idea what's going on in there, but I know what I see, right? Well, the same thing is with us, okay? We believe that our emotions create our reality. We really don't know how it's supposed to work, but that's not your department, okay? When we try to control, like if we said, okay, now I'm going to figure out how this particular signal is going to go into this machine, and I'm going to figure that out, that right there is holding it back. Remember that your broadcast signal is going out there at all times, every second of the day, just like when you turn on your TV. So what channel do you guys want to be on? I don't know about you, but I really want to be on love. I want to be on channel love all the time, love and above. It may not be possible, but I'm going to certainly try. Wow, Christina, I love your view. Look at the clouds behind you. That's so pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on the balcony. I don't have any other space, so I kind of like claimed
It's
it.
a reflection actually on the glass, on the clouds in front of you. Now I see that. How cool
Yeah,
is that?
so it's actually perfect. Yeah, I wanted to share also another things with you regarding this emotional state like chart which you sent, and I totally agree with it. And I was blessed to go through a lot of the states and hire myself to their enlightenment. And actually, I was on my way to enlightenment. I had to die in my meditation. Literally, I didn't expect that. I just was meditating. It was just things that had to happen because I went through this place of joy and internal and love, and I was ridiculously happy person always. my husband,
Yes, you are, Christina. You are a ridiculously happy person.
Happy person. And so then I went to the state of no emotion. After I was enlightened, I died basically the way I was, like myself died. So not physical body, even though it felt like a physical body. I thought I'm having a heart attack or something, but it was not. So then I went to a place with no emotion. And I want to tell you, it's a wonderful place. It's like a blissful state of, it's not neutrality, it's not indifferent, it's not scary. It was scary for my husband to see that because when he told me, like, do you love me? I couldn't tell him because the love didn't make sense. The same as bad stuff like fear didn't make sense either because it was all kind of like a perfect bliss. And
Yes.
after that, and it's a wonderful state, but this state of where you experience everything in its raw. But in order for this conversation, to the sake of this conversation, that's not what I went for this earth. And I thought that, I mean, that's a wonderful state, and I was in it for a while, but I would like to experience emotion. I chose to have this difference. I chose to experience emotion. This emotion started to come to me, but I experience even now all the emotions differently. They don't come from much from inside. They just feel the frame, feel the space. It's just pure emotion that experience itself. So, like in my experience, if it makes sense. So,
Well, Christina, the neutral state of emotion, the one that's in between fear and love, they call it boredom.
No. That's what I mean. It's not it. It's pure bliss. It's after love. It's after love. It's not indifference. It's like if you take all the spectrum of the light and put it in a bright white light, and you experience everything at once to its raw, to its infinite state, and it's all so perfect. There is no boredom. There is no emotions. There is no boredom. There is no emotions whatsoever. They just don't exist as we used to experience them as human experience. They don't exist there in that place, and it's hard to express it because it's very alien place to be, and that's what the excitement. So it's only experiencing it you can try to express something that you cannot express infinite, and you cannot express infinite emotions all at once. Experiencing itself, it's hard to express.
But I had a similar experience when I went into that state of bliss, that it feels like it really does feel similar to what people call a near-death experience. You feel like you die to your own self.
I allowed myself to die. No, it's not a joke. I allowed myself to die mentally. I had like a body shaking, because my body was telling me that something is going on, and I thought I'm having a heart attack or so. I was ready, and I thought I will die because the picture was changing in front of my eyes. I was like not drinking, not normal. Like, so I didn't do anything. I was just sitting normally, meditation, group awareness exercise. But because I was already preconditioned with all my life going through a lot of these steps and working on myself, so that was first exercised in the mind, not on the mind. Like positive psychology, it's all this stuff on the mind. But awareness exercise, it was the first exercise within the mind, and I just flew away. But before that, it was 1.5 hours and of all steps through the self-dissolution. And that, thankfully, my husband learned about it before me, because I didn't read about anything of that. I was busy with building a house, raising a baby. I didn't have time for that reading. So I didn't know about what enlightenment is. I didn't know about all the steps. I was like pure raw experiment of not knowingly experiencing that I couldn't even describe. And then I told him my description. So it was all the emotions. First, all the emotions within 1.5 hours started to come up, starting with the lowest, all this gradual scale. It was lowest, and it was fears, and it was like apathy. And I never was never experienced this emotion in my life. I never was like hopeless. I never had depression. I never had this panic attack. I had a panic attack. And it was like all these emotions started to experience themselves like in the highest degree possible. I thought, I will not survive mentally that, I will not survive physically that, and I ran away. And then I said, no, I mean, what can happen to me? The worst case, and I came back. It's very strange, but it's very interesting because I'm curious in nature. So I thought to myself that, okay, maximum what can happen, I'm going cuckoo. But meditation, I really didn't hear anyone going cuckoo from meditation. That would be very strange. So I thought, okay, this is unlikely. I'm having sweat, and like my heart was beating. I was like shaking like that. I couldn't do anything. I was like, okay, I'm having a heart attack. I never had heart attack in my life. Maybe this is how it feels, because I was squished. So, and then I thought, okay, that I might die. So I thought that I literally thought about it, like literally thought that my girl will stay with husband. My parents will take care of her if I will physically die. But I know that something will happen. I'm very intuitive if I'm going to continue that. So that meditation, something happened. And then I thought that I might have two choices. I have to allow myself to go cuckoo. And worst case, I will be in a cuckoo home, and they're pretty good here in the United States. So I know my husband and my daughter will be not liking it. They will maybe suffer, but I will be okay. And it's my life. And I'm very curious what it is. And after that, I thought, okay, and then worst case, I will die physically. And I thought that I had a pretty good life. And this is really something special to me happening. And I might die, but if I not know what is there, I think I would just not, I cannot go further living my life, knowing that something very strange happening to me, and I will not see what it is because I'm curious. So I allowed myself to go cuckoo first. I let my mind out, just like whatever is there, because the picture was like pixels. My head was rolling. I didn't see I looked in front of my screen and I didn't see my screen. It was like a darkness and then light, and then I was in the space, and then everything like just crashed. The whole world crashed. The whole understanding how it works, the whole understanding of that I'm a human, everything crashed, like crashed. Everything, all the mind concepts crashed, just crashed.
Christina, for those of us that are on the call, it's very challenging to even relate to that state of being. It's something that is that leaving your body really.
It's not living body. I was in the body, but the concept of body disappears. And then when I allowed my body to die, I said, okay, I might be dying right now, but I will die then. I want to see what's there. And I allowed myself physically to die, like 100%. The moment I allowed myself, not 99, not with one doubt, I allowed myself 100% here now to die or go cuckoo. And that's it. Then it was a big light. And there was such a clarity. What I'm speaking about, the state bliss, it's not a bliss which I experienced in just meditation. It's not beautiful sensation. It's not that. It's not human experience like. It's just pure clarity of everything. And then after this emotional state, the emotions started to come back. And so it was a long time to integrate all of this stuff. And this is what they call enlightenment. So I just because we are talking about these things that not a lot of people have happened to experience in this lifetime. It's actually what I experienced. It's very, very unique and rare to experience even through one lifetime. People do that not sometimes for 40 years, go through that experience, which I was blessed to get out of nothing. But what I want to say is that because being ridiculously person, I started to see experiencing emotion as raw. And when we want desperately to be happy, we forget that, like you said, that all emotions are important. That I saw the guilt coming out of feeling sad. Because we want to be happy, we concentrate on being happy. So the moment we feel sad or like angry or like not what we want, there is a guilt coming out, or like there's something wrong and there is not what I want to feel. And like you said, like this is what we need to allow ourselves to feel everything at the moment. And the next moment we can choose.
We can't play judge. We can't play judge to our emotions. We have to allow them to come through us. When we repress them, when we bottle them, they're all there for a very important purpose. And that is true. That is you can't judge them for, we're in a society that judges our emotions all the time. You know, we're always in a state of judging them for being good or bad, but they're not actually. They're just a guidance. They're just a guidance system. And what Christina experiences is extremely rare and very unusual. Some people experience something close to that when they die, like literally, like they have a near-death experience that they release from their body. But the beauty of that is that we are always a soul having a physical experience. Always. What we are in our essence, what we are is a soul. And if the soul is not expressing itself through your bodily form, through your physical form, with its proper alignment, that is when it creates resistance through what we call negative emotion. Okay? Negative emotion is an expression of that resistance, of what the soul is asking for. The belief that everything is a yes to what is in our ego saying no. Okay? That contrast is what is called a negative emotion. That's all it is. And once you understand the power of that, once you understand that there isn't a positive or a negative emotion, they just are, they're there to guide us, then we're more capable of reaching for the higher emotion, because that is the one that is connected to our soul. So when we've talked about our own purpose, finding our journey, listening to our soul, listening to what it's saying, the emotions are the guide that show us the way. It's the compass. So when you asked yourself, what is my soul's purpose? And we wrote these words down and we resonated with them. And then we also thought about values that allow us to feel joyful and in alignment with ourselves. When we picked those words that made sense to us, right? What we're doing is we're starting to speak the language of the soul. Okay, we are learning, because unfortunately they don't teach us this in school. They don't teach us this when we're children. Nobody takes the time, or even maybe has the knowledge, like our parents before us, maybe never really were exposed to the things that we've been exposed to. Just this information that we're going over in these classes that I'm doing every Sunday is not given to us. We don't have the opportunity. Nobody says, hey, do you know that you're just a soul in a physical body? That's all you are, and that we're going to return to that. They tell us in ways that are very story-like, fable, mythology, religion. They tell us things like that, but they don't really give us the true tools of how to navigate through life. They tell us, oh, if you're a good girl, you'll be good, that your life will be very, very good to you. And it's like, what the hell does that mean? What is a good girl anyway? I don't know. What? I'm not supposed to cry? Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I am supposed to cry. I don't know. Maybe that's good. Nobody tells us, right? So why not? And it's never too late, by the way. You could be 8 or 80. I don't care. If you start learning this, you will be able to connect to the soul. Because like I said, especially for Ariel, I don't know if she's still on the call, when someone finds themselves in the most lowest frequencies that are depression, hopelessness, all of those fear, deep shame is a big one. Shame is huge. And lots of times women, we carry collective shame. Like we're experiencing right now these protests in our world because there's this huge collective shame and guilt attached to what has been perpetrated to a specific race. Okay? And that shame and guilt has to be purged. And these protests are part of the purging, because we no longer want to be those people. We don't want to be shaming a race, do we? No. So what is happening is these protests are part of our purging, our collective purging. Can you believe that? The entire world has resonated with this shame to the point that they have decided to protest as well. Never in the history of this planet have protests happened across the world for something, for one human being that died in the United States through mistreatment. This is a beautiful thing, guys. It is horrible, but it's beautiful because the entire world has decided we no longer will put up with that. That is not who we really are. We are loving, spiritual, soulful entities that have been conditioned. Nobody is born thinking that a particular color of skin is wrong. Your soul knows better than that because it's been many, many colors and many, many genders. We are conditioned into those beliefs. And these protests that are occurring right now are actually a purging of those negative emotions that we have felt in our collective unconscious. Okay, we know it. You know when something is wrong. Your emotions are telling you all the time. When you feel guilt, is because your soul is not aligned with whatever it is that you're doing. You're betraying your soul. You're not betraying the situation or another person. You're betraying you. So when you experience those emotions, it's your soul speaking. And that's why it's so important to make that connection and not ignore the soul's language. It doesn't speak in words so much. It speaks in emotion. So we have to learn to listen. And the closer we learn to listen to that soul language, the more aligned we become and the more easily we manifest in the direction of our dreams and expand to our highest and greatest potential, the one that we came here for. And like Christina said, when you're in that state of bliss, of nothingness, of not even bliss, of unfeeling, you are not expanding. And that's why you choose to come here. You choose to come to expand to the next and highest, greatest thing. Because otherwise, what's the point? All right, guys. Another sacred, soulful Sunday. I hope that this one we have as a recording because the first one that I did was not there. And I hope that all of you share with me any ahas and insights. I will, of course, put more of this information on the WhatsApp that you can reach out and go to. And if there aren't any other questions, I think we'll call it a day.